Hey guys, Dodge Landisman here. Know it's been a while, and I'll explain towards the end of the video the reason for my absence, but don't want to bore you with the personal details before everything else. I'll make sure to do that after. But I wanted to remark upon my experience when I went about a month ago to the Trump rally in New Hampshire. This was in Dover, New Hampshire, at a well-known university. And it was a long time ago, but I kind of wanted to wait and chew on it and kind of see what was happening in the polls, talk to some more people, and kind of analyze it once you see the dust settle in a way. So obviously right now, since the primary, Nikki Haley has been consistently doing better and better, minus her slip up with not being able to answer the Civil War question and some issues that people might have. Although I think I've spoken to a lot of conservative voters and they don't actually really care about the Civil War slip up. And I mentioned Nikki Haley's success in the polls because I wanted to analyze what it's like to actually attend a Trump rally and kind of convey that feeling. And it looks like, in a lot of ways, Trump has lost his luster. And I know that's a controversial thing to say, and interestingly enough, on my YouTube, about half of people subscribing to me are conservative and support former President Trump, while the other half are progressive and support Biden. Or I would say 40-40 with 20% being more closer to me, which is sick of both parties and tend to vote independent or libertarian. So will be controversial, but I think as somebody objective who really looks at these things in a clear and honest manner, Trump seems to be losing his luster, and I'll explain why. If you look at the past primary rallies in various states or whatever election rally for Trump, security has been beefed up. You'd have to wait in line for over an hour to get in, and it was always over capacity. Every single seat was filled, and Trump would brag about his numbers, and him bragging about those numbers would be largely accurate in a lot of ways. But in this rally, it was very easy to get in. I showed up maybe 10 minutes before the rally, waited in line for about 3 minutes, and as you can see by a little of the video that I took, only about 75% of this college arena was filled. Remember, this isn't a major league NHL arena or an NBA arena. It's a college, local New Hampshire college arena. And it was only 75% filled. And it was interesting because people would even walk away. I'd say about 20 people walked away mid-speech and just kind of got bored of it. And I think that's the interesting thing about the Trump speech, which plays well for him and also hurts him. Because he doesn't talk like that overly careful politician, like Nikki Haley. That might be her negative. She's so concerned about relaying the correct answer that she comes off as way too cold and calculated, nervous, and careful. Trump, it's like you're talking to an old friend. And for a while, you get caught up in it. And as somebody who looks at these events objectively, I did get caught up in the Trump fervor for at least a few moments. And I even had this slight interaction with him when he was mentioning the other candidates that were still running against him, and he mentioned Asa Hutchinson, and I yelled out from the crowd, Ada! And then Trump responded directly to me, which everybody turned to give me a thumbs up. He said, yeah, Ada, that's right. I call him Ada, that's right. And for that little moment, not that I'm this huge Trump fan, I thought, oh, that's cool. Like, Trump recognized me. So you certainly do get caught up in the moment when you're it's like you're talking to an old friend and shooting the shit, which is fun. But if you're talking to an old friend and shooting the shit, then what he says is less meaningful, and you tend to pay less attention than to perhaps a polished speech with a lot of substance. What was interesting about Trump in this speech, as we've all heard because it's broadcasted, he talked about these vague issues, about vaguely wanting to secure the border, but with no tangible specifics, vaguely wanting to lighten the load in Ukraine, but again, offering no tangible specifics, remarking about how his economy is so much better and he'll bring inflation down. But did he talk about lowering the interest rates? Did he talk about a universal basic income, which might help? No. I would say, and I've been to, I think, because I was also in New Hampshire in 2020, I've seen about 10 candidates up close and personal give their pitch. And by far, Trump, in terms of the issues, has been the least substantive. And what was interesting, too, is that when you hear Trump speak, a lot of this stuff kind of glosses over. And the big moment from that rally was him talking about the blood being poisoned. And I remember when I heard it, and I'm certainly more pro-immigrant than a lot of the conservatives would be. So that would be something that I would notice. it wasn't nearly as offensive to me as the media made it out to me. And that's the other thing about Trump. He says something that's slightly irksome, and then the media will take the ball and run with it and say that Trump said something horrific or racist. And again, as an objective observer, and I'm going to be one of the few very down the middle, down the line objective observers. There's no left or right slant to me. So when you want to hear analysis on a race or a candidate, you will get the most nonpartisan analysis over here, quite frankly. That's why I do lose a fair amount of subscribers every now and then, especially when I post a video, because some are angry that I'm not as partisan, either violently pro-Trump or violently anti-Trump. And again, I'm just calling things as I see them. But when he said the poison, the blood, and the water, he's being very specific. He says, well, because, just like he said last time, because so many cartel members get through and so many MS-13 gang members get through, their blood, specifically their blood, is poisoning the blood of the U.S. Now, of course, that's not a far cry from Hitler's famous quote in Mein Kampf, where he just referred to the Jews that way. And I honestly don't think that Trump meant to be racist, but here's what I think is interesting in kind of analyzing Trump's speech. I don't think Trump has read Mein Kampf. I don't think Trump is a fan of Adolf Hitler. I don't think Trump wants to emulate Hitler. But here's the thing. I think there are people who advise him who do have an admiration. Think of Stephen Miller. And he's a creepy guy all around, and his very radical proclamations of hatred towards immigrants, and his propagating the theory of the great white replacement theory, which I always think is hilarious, because if you're a conservative white person with traditional values, guess what? It's not young white people like me that are going to continue your sacred traditional values. It's going to be immigrant people, people from Latin American countries who are more religious, who are more traditional, who get married at a younger age, who still want to, I don't want to have kids. I don't want to have a wife anymore. So sorry if you're looking to uphold your traditional values that supposedly the white people created in this civilized world, which is, I disagree with that argument as well. But it's not me. I'm the people that I descended from the Pilgrims. My distant grandfather was the captain of the boat that was literally behind the Mayflower. There's a boat that followed the Mayflower. But I'm not the people you want, conservatives. You want actually people from Mexico, or Mexico's getting very modernized quite quickly too. People from Central American and South American countries who believe the same way you do, because I don't. I'm not very religious, and I'm not into a traditional family structure. And I have no opposition to it, and I have a nephew that I adore. But it's deeply ironic. So anyway, Stephen Miller is an advocate of this great replacement theory, and I'm sure has read Mein Kampf. And what is very smart with Trump's team is they know how to send this dog whistle, and Trump doesn't even know he's sending the dog whistle. That's why I'm not blaming Trump and not calling him racist as much as so much of the liberal media does, because it's like, for he know not what he does. Trump is unaware of these dog whistles. These dog whistles are implanted. Stephen Miller say, oh, this is an interesting line about poisoning the blood. Put it here in the speech. Just make sure. He didn't really have a teleprompter or anything, but just make sure to say that. And I don't think Trump will truly understood that it's this intentionally racist thing. That's just my view. And I remember when I heard it, because he was saying with the caveat of these were criminals, yada, 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 coming in. I was like, yeah, okay, they're all criminals. Great. Of course, that's what you think. Surprise, surprise. I wasn't offended where I was nonplussed by it and not impressed, and obviously in disagreement with it. But it was interesting because the rhetoric that people say inspires violence in Trump, if you actually go to the rallies, it doesn't come off as that violent. It doesn't actually really inspire violence. It's this analyze the dog whistle. And the dog whistle stuff has been going on since Ronald Reagan and the Cadillac mothers, and many argue Nixon, of course, with the silent majority. And there's so many terms which you could say are dog whistles for racism, which you could debate. Are you saying the silent majority is all racist? No, I wouldn't think so. So there is this way the liberal media likes to take a little kernel and stretch it into something much bigger than it actually is. At the flip side of the coin, you can't be that purely conservative person and say Trump is not catering towards a racist segment of voters. He is, and we have to accept that reality, and we have to accept that because of Trump's rhetoric, and I think a lot of the rhetoric is planted by Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller, that people are using it as an excuse to be intolerant and racist, quite frankly. So again, you have to have this view in the middle about it. So it was a very interesting experience So I'll show some interviews coming up. And one of the other things that was interesting is what Trump has done is he's turned politics into a kind of a circus. He's made it less serious, which as a journalist, as somebody who has a sense of humor, I found that very entertaining and enjoyable. But there was at least like 10 characters just trolling and making fun of the Trump rally. At a Christie rally, even at a Hillary rally, there weren't as many eccentric characters. So Trump has made politics into the circus of the absurd in a way that no other candidate has. And that would be for better or for worse, I suppose. But yes, as you can see by this interview.
I want Marjorie Taylor Greene, strong horse legs. She's a beautiful girl. I wrote a song about her.
I want to hear it.
She's got style. She's got grace. She's got a terrible face, but she's got strong horse legs. Don't need a book, she can't read a damn book, but she's got strong horse legs. Strong horse legs.
What's the issue that's most important to you?
Just the freedom of the country, the way everyone wants to run it, and no backdoor politics, no more trouble with wash this hand, wash that hand, just straightforward business deals.
Clearly, a lot of people just enjoying just knocking him and making fun of him. And I think he's a great target to make fun of. I think Biden can easily be made fun of as well and is a joke as well. So it's pick your poison. But it is interesting how his rallies have kind of turned into an excuse to make silly videos and kind of make fun of the absurdity of the world. So it was a very interesting experience. And again, just hearing him wasn't that horribly shocking. But his speech pattern is so interesting because he doesn't give that formal speech where he's just kind of meandering the whole time. And he jumps from topic to topic to topic like he has the most extreme ADD in the world, even more so than in a normal conversation, which I find kind of bizarre and interesting. And again, it works for a while when you hear it on TV because you're like, oh, he talks normally and he doesn't talk like anybody else and talks like I'm talking to a friend. Problem is you don't want to pay attention to him for the entire speech. And I didn't even pay it. I kind of just spaced out because again, there's no logical path or format for there's no consecutive format for his speech. So it's this weird just hodgepodge of random word clouds just kind of popping up all around. But it was an interesting experience. I'm glad I went. As to why I have been out of commission for a while, don't worry, I'm finally back in commission. My mom was sick. Again, we were kind of nervous. She had to go to a few more doctor's appointments, so I had to take about a week to yet again shuttle her back and forth. That was after the Trump rally, or after the holiday, so I just came back for that. And then in between, I'm dating a young lady from Mexico who I quite adore. And because of visa issues, thank you, Trump, but also thank you, Biden, and thank you, Obama, who've been pretty strict on this. She cannot get a visa to be to go into the U.S. So if Canada's up the road, I decide to see her. So I flew out, this young lady that I quite adore, up to Montreal, and we certainly had a very, very nice time. And I enjoyed it. And that's another thing I think I'll talk about later on is my kind of weird dating life. And I'd like to be kind of an anti-Andrew Tate. Because I come off as this nerdy, very square, ultra white guy. Certainly not typically, hey, what's up? I'm cool. Hey, what's up, girl? Like, I'm not that guy, but you don't have to be that guy to get girls to be interested in you. Just go to Mexico, and you don't have to be unkind to anybody or be mean or be this alpha BS, whatever everybody's talking about. I don't even pay attention to any of that stuff. But I always thought maybe I'll do like a dating advice in a more positive, how you can still be kind to date successfully. And you just have to find your market. I found my market, and redheads are very exotic down in Mexico, so I've never had a big problem there. So we had a great time, and then Mom got sick. And so instead of continuing in New Hampshire from Montreal, I kind of rushed home to take care of Mom. She's good now. She's getting ready to go to Rome, Italy. She teaches a class there. She used to be a Broadway set designer. And as a pretty good gig, she teaches 2 classes a week, and this academy, the school pays for her own apartment, which is pretty cool. She doesn't have to pay for it. Only has to teach class twice a week. So she just got back to Rome once she finally got the green light. But sorry to be so out of commission. That was just kind of the priority with her. So I'm a little late on the game in New Hampshire, but I am leaving again in about 2 days. So we'll still have a solid 9 days to cover this. And then I believe on to South Carolina. And then after South Carolina, follow the primaries if they continue Super Tuesday, or if not, I think I'll go down to Mexico first to see the young lady that I adore, but also to do some documentary stuff. I've been to about 27 states in Mexico, so I've been all over the continent, and the election is going on there. That election is in June. They changed it from July to June. So I think maybe focusing on that would be a lot of fun, going to the famous cartel hotspots. But thank you guys for bearing with me. Finally, a reason that I haven't posted as much is, ironically, I told you before they kept losing subscribers. And what happens is I lose subscribers if I post a new video. If I don't post a new video, my subscribers remain steady. So if I have a super popular video about Scientology, I'll get a lot of new subscribers. And there's some really cool interviews in the works for this next week as well. But if I post a political thing, some I'll gain subscribers and it'll catch fire. But ironically, if there's a video that only gets 100 or 200 views, I will lose about 40 subscribers from one video, 20 to, and again, if I didn't post any video, I would have lost no subscribers. So it has a negative effect, but I still love doing it. I'm going to continue it. And I figure out the reason why, and it's understandable. The reason why is because people are angry that I'm not, again, violently pro-Trump or violently anti-Trump. And there's such a small space for those who fall in the middle, who, I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't vote for Biden. I voted for George Jorgensen, the Libertarian candidate. So again, both parties I have contempt for, and that's basically going to be the slant that you get. The only slant that you'll get from me is be wary of power, challenge what they are saying. Let's speak through things through an unfiltered, objective lens, because the mainstream media is not giving that to you, whether that's Fox News or whether that's MSNBC. Sorry guys, to me they're the same sides of the coin. But I lose subscribers because every single topic that you see, it's interesting. Follow some of your favorite political YouTube people and think of a topic that just came up. Let's say it's Title 49, 42 with the immigrants being allowed to come in and claim asylum because of COVID and them changing that rule. You can think of anybody, and you could follow anybody. You could follow Ben Shapiro, or you could follow David Pakman, and you'll know exactly what, and I follow both of them. And both of them are entertaining. You'll know exactly what David Pakman's going to say. You'll know exactly what Ben Shapiro's going to say. If you want to talk about how much of a chance Biden has to be reelected, David Pakman, you already know, is going to say he has an excellent chance. He's a great president, yada, yada. And Ben Shapiro is going to say he has absolutely no chance. The reality is he's doing the worst than any other incumbent president has done. You have to recognize that. They're also third-party candidates, which their factor you don't really know yet. And so Biden, I would say, has a 40% chance of being reelected, you'd say, but certainly no chance. But I just get tired of that. So if you want a YouTube page where you're like, what's this? And I'm going to be posting a lot more and talking about more issues and giving my perspective, because it's not, there is going to be opinion. I'll give my opinion somewhat, but my opinion will be more about strategy and what will the long-term goal and what will the long-term effects be from whatever happens be. It's not going to be predictable. And I think people hate, or a lot of people who decide to unsubscribe, that they don't like that I'm not predictable. Again, there's going to be no partisan lens, guys. It's just not happening. I've been a journalist for 5 years. So, if you worship in the altar of Trump, or you have a voodoo doll of Trump and you torture him, I'm not with either of you guys. Hate to say it. As I mentioned before, I'm probably going to go for RFK at the end of the day. I think that makes a lot of sense. But thank you guys for bearing with me. Again, you're going to hear these not objective takes. Back in New Hampshire very soon. I think the first one I'm going to check out is Chris Christie. We'll certainly be there at least a week before, 9 days before, and certainly be there for the big night. And then my future plans. So thank you. There's also a YouTube subscriber who said, why aren't you posting videos? I think his name starts with a C, but thank you for your continued support. Appreciate you watching, and your message kind of inspired me to rev this back up. So thank you guys for your interest, and thanks for listening to me gab. I appreciate it. Take care.